The sun slipped behind the San Pedro ridges, leaving a crimson trail that bled across the sky. Old Samuel Grady, 82 years of wind, grit, and loneliness, sat on the creaking porch of his ranch house, his cane resting between scarred hands. The desert wind carried the smell of dust and mesquite, and the evening light made the land look like it was painted in fire. He'd lived alone for nearly 20 years, ever since Mary died that bitter winter. The nights were usually quiet, just the horses breathing and the clock ticking. But tonight the stillness felt wrong. His mare Daisy whinnied sharply from the corral. Samuel frowned, grabbed the rifle by the door, and followed the sound into the dark. There, half buried in dust behind the barn, lay a boy, maybe 15, bare chest heaving, blood soaking his buckskin shirt, an arrow stuck deep in his ribs. Even before the moonlight caught his face, Samuel knew. Apache. He hesitated only a heartbeat. If he helped the boy, the tribe might think he'd taken him captive. If he left him, the coyotes would finish the job before sunrise. "Easy now, son," he muttered, lowering his rifle and kneeling beside him. The boy's eyes fluttered open, dark, terrified, fighting for life. "You'll be all right," Samuel said, though he wasn't sure it was true. Inside the cabin, firelight danced over old wooden walls. Samuel laid the boy on the table, fetched his tin of gauze, whiskey, and a knife heated red-hot in the coals. "Hold on, kid," he murmured as he snapped the shaft of the arrow and drew out the head. The boy screamed, gripping the table edge. Samuel pressed cloth to the wound, poured whiskey, wrapped it tight, and kept talking to keep him awake. Hours passed. The fire sank low and the desert howled beyond the window. But the boy's breathing steadied. His fever broke just before dawn. Samuel wiped his forehead, smiled a little. "You'll live, I reckon." When the morning light spilled through the cracks, Samuel went outside to feed the horses. That was when he saw them, hoofprints. Hundreds of them. He shaded his eyes, staring toward the horizon. And there they were, a line of riders shimmering through the dust, more and more emerging until the valley was full of them. Apache warriors. Spears glinting, horses stamping. They stopped at the edge of his land, a wall of silent power. Samuel's rifle leaned unused by the door. The boy appeared behind him, weak but standing. His eyes widened at the sight. Then one warrior rode forward, a tall man with feathers and a scar down his cheek. He lifted a hand, palm open. "The white elder saved my son," he called. "Today the Apache guard his home." Samuel's throat tightened. The boy whispered a word in his tongue. Something Samuel didn't understand but somehow felt in his bones gratitude, and, as the rising sun turned the desert gold, the old man realized he was no longer alone. The promise beneath the morning sun. The valley held its breath. 1,000. Warriors stood before Samuel's ranch, motionless except for the shifting of horses. The morning light turned their weapons to flame. Samuel leaned on the porch rail, stunned by the sight. Behind him, the boy stirred. "My name is Tahoma," he said softly. "My father, the chief. He come for me." Samuel nodded. "Figured as much." Tahoma hesitated. "You saved me. Why?" The old man looked toward the horizon. "Because I had a boy once. Someone should have been there to save him. I couldn't then. I could now." Moments later, the chief dismounted and walked toward the porch. His presence was like thunder wrapped in silence, tall, proud, eyes sharp with years of command. The two men faced each other, one weathered by time, one by battle. "My son tells me you healed him," said the chief in rough English. "I did what I could," Samuel replied. The chief studied him for a long time, then nodded. "Many moons our young die by white man's hand. My heart is heavy with hate. But this day an old white man saves my son, that I will not forget." He gestured toward his warriors. "They stand not for war. They stand for you." Samuel swallowed hard. "Well, I don't reckon I deserve all that. I just did what was right." The chief placed his hand on his chest. "Your name will be spoken by our fires, the old one who heals instead of kills." Then he smiled faintly. "If danger comes to you, the Apache will ride." Samuel chuckled. "At my age, danger's the least of my worries. But thank you." The chief lifted his arm, and the warriors struck their spears against the earth in rhythm, deep, rolling thunder that shook the valley. It was no war cry. It was honor. Samuel felt the ground tremble under his boots and tears sting his eyes. Tahoma stepped to his father's side. The chief placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, pride softening his face. Before mounting up, Tahoma turned back. Old one, he said. When I am chief, I come again. I bring you water when land is dry. Samuel smiled. You just live long enough to make that promise true. Boy. The riders turned toward the mountains, dust rising like smoke behind them. The thunder of their departure faded until only the wind remained. Samuel stood motionless, the valley empty once more, but not the same. Something inside him, something buried since Mary's death and his son's loss, had come alive again. The world, cruel as it could be, still had mercy in it. He spent the rest of the day tending the horses, mending fences, letting the quiet fill him instead of loneliness. That evening, he placed the broken arrow he'd removed from Tahoma above the fireplace. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder that kindness can build bridges where bullets once burned them. Night returned clear and endless. Samuel stepped outside, cane tapping softly. The stars spread across the desert sky like silver dust. Somewhere out there, he imagined, Tahoma was looking at the same stars, alive because an old man couldn't walk away. Samuel smiled into the dark. Mary, he whispered, I reckon I did one thing right after all. And in the far distance, faint but real, he thought he heard hooves again, steady, protective, keeping watch over the old ranch under the endless western sky. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still matters, even when the world feels rough, then don't ride off just yet. Hit subscribe, tap that bell icon, and join our growing family of story lovers who keep the spirit of the Old West alive. Every like, comment,